Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Armagh City, Banbridge and Craigavon Borough Council's very first, and I know you don't mind me saying this, hopefully last, virtual tourism seminar. Because it is everyone's wish that we will soon be together in the same room discussing the wonderful destinations, establishments, historic sites, events and culinary delights we have to offer a world keen to get back to travel, exploration and discovery. We're coming to you live from the Navik studio in Belfast. My name is Nicola Weir and I will be your host this morning. So with this in mind, I want to thank you all for tuning into this event and sending questions you want our experts to answer. I do hope to get through all of your questions today, but if we don't answer it live, then rest assured the ABC Tourism team will ensure you get an answer via email. ABC Council wants to thank all of you in the tourism and hospitality sector for the amazing work you do and have continued to do through what has been the most horrendous and unprecedented year. A year that has economically ravaged an industry that aims to unite people through an unfaltering dedication to excellent, superb surroundings, a feast for the senses, and all done with a very welcoming smile for those who live near and far. Over the last year, the tourism and hospitality sector has been tested to the limit. It's a test many have met head on, coming up with online events, virtual tours, continuing your global sales efforts virtually, or offering what is now a firm favourite in my house, the restaurant takeaway menu. Today, we're hopefully seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. The mood music appears to be positive for return to life for our tourism and hospitality sector. So the theme for this event is Look to the Future, 2021 and beyond. We want you to hear about the proactive approach that each of the organisations behind our speakers today are doing to prepare for this recovery and how it can help you with yours. We want you armed with information and knowledge as to what post-COVID travellers want in relation to their holiday experiences in the future. Our speakers this morning are Dr. Joanne Stewart, OBE, CEO of Northern Ireland Tourism Alliance, Naomi Waite, Director of Marketing at Tourism Northern Ireland, Kieran Docherty, Stakeholder Liaison Manager at Tourism Ireland, and Brian Johnson, Head of Tourism, Arts and Culture at ABC Council. Thank you so much for giving up your time this morning. It is very much appreciated and we have no doubt that the information you give this morning will be an invaluable help to those watching from home. Before we hear from our guests, please make sure that you're on mute throughout this seminar and you can submit questions by using the chat feature on your screen. We want to hear from you. This is your event. This is your opportunity. This is your time. Don't hold back. Get those questions in now. And a recording of this seminar will be available afterwards and shared with all attendees. So without further ado, let me introduce you to our first speaker, Dr. Joanne Stewart, OBE, CEO of Northern Ireland Tourism Alliance. Dr. Stewart joined the organisation in March 2019. The Alliance is a private sector-led voice of the tourism industry in Northern Ireland. A former chair of the Institute of Directors in Northern Ireland, Joanne is a highly experienced business leader. She is a key member of the Tourism Recovery Steering Group, established by the Northern Ireland Minister for the Economy, and represents the Northern Ireland tourism industry on the UK Tourism Industry Emergency Response Group and the UK Tourism Industry Council. Joanne's presentation today will make reference to the work of NITA in the last 12 months and her aspirations for a roadmap to recovery for the sector in the coming months. So without further ado, Joanne, over to you.
One thing that has come through the last 12 months is just how much effort, innovation and passion that our tourism businesses have put into making sure that they have a COVID secure environment, looking after staff and making sure that consumers can have a really good experience and be safe. But yet that doesn't seem to always feed through into the reopening. So if I look at some of our attractions, our indoor attractions, they were one of the last to open last summer. But yet, if you compare that to non-essential retail and the sort of environment that you're working in, there really was no reason as to why indoor attractions couldn't have opened earlier. But we need the executive to understand that and to explain the rationale behind their decisions. And the other thing then will be about the financial support. As I said, a lot of business, we're down over 60% on business. Businesses have worked really hard. And I think, as Nicola said, we've seen real resilience and innovation on how businesses can find ways to engage with their consumers and visitors. But reserves have gone. Businesses have taken on debt, whether it's through the government-backed loans or other forms of financing to help them get through. We are looking at least another month, if not more, before we can properly reopen. So the need for financial support has not gone away. It's even more important than it has been. And also the costs of reopening, have got to be covered. So we are calling for much more financial support for the industry as we move into this next phase. But looking as if, when we reopen, as I say, and we don't know yet when that's going to be, but we're hoping that it will be in the next month or so. We know that we're not going to get Easter, and that's hugely disappointing because I know how important that is for the industry. But what the good thing is, when we look to the potential visitors that we're going to have, obviously we've got our own home market. And I have to say that the domestic visitors, last year really came out and supported the industry, and we'll need to see that again this year. We struggled a bit with the GB market last year, but I think that will be different this year. With Northern Ireland being part of that UK vaccination programme, I think there will be more confidence within visitors from GB to come to Northern Ireland because they know that we're in the same place as they are, and therefore there'll be more confidence. And I'm looking forward to hearing from Kieran with regards to the specific Northern Ireland campaigns that are ready to go by Tourism Ireland to make sure that we maximise that potential market. And then we have the Republic of Ireland. Now, obviously, Republic of Ireland are at the moment behind us with regards to the. Sorry, I've switched that up. The Republic of Ireland are behind us with regards to how they're coping with the COVID-19. However, it was reassuring to hear from the Taoiseach this week that they are hoping that 82% of their population will be vaccinated vaccinated by the end of June. And so I think that really opens up an opportunity then for the Republic of Ireland. And we know that those visitors who came from the Republic last year had a brilliant time. We exceeded their expectations. So I'm hopeful that if we can really get and maximise our home markets, that will start to let us to rebuild tourism. Now, when I look to the future, the other big market and the other that we need to reopen is about that international market. Now, that is an area that we have been growing, but the problem with the international is obviously the travel restrictions, the quarantining. There's a lot of talk about vaccination passports, which brings up a number of ethical issues, testing and how we can do testing, for people coming into Northern Ireland. And I think we've all heard from the airlines who don't see really a return until 2023, 24. And so from a Northern Ireland perspective, in really starting to get back to where we were, we are talking another couple of years. But that's where the home markets are so important, and why our message will be to people locally to get out and support our local tourism businesses. So that's a bit of an update there, Nicola. I don't know whether you have any particular questions for me, so that.
Joanne, very, very enlightening what you said to us. Now, you talked there very much at the very beginning about the opening and the closing and the opening and the closing. How damaging do you think that was for our hospitality and tourism sector at that time when it was such a stop and start mentality?
Oh, it was. It's hugely difficult to work with. One, it's the cost of reopening. Getting staff back, getting out and getting everything in that you need to provide that service, making sure that you're up to date with the guidance and you've got the mitigations in place. So that takes a lot of effort, time, and money. And then for it to be closed down. Then you have to close everything down and put people back on furlough, and then you're opening again. And the real problem with last year as well was that you just didn't have any time. So yes, you're opening. No, you're not opening. And we had the disagreements within the executive, which helped nobody. And there were a number of occasions where we were 24 hours before due to open, where everything was in place, and then we weren't opening. So it's and I know for a lot of the hotels and the accommodation providers who were open over Christmas, for that sort of 3-day period, really that was not a good way. And for a lot of them, they weren't able to cover their costs, but still felt that you need to be open, you need to be showing that you're able to provide these services so that people will have confidence to come back. So that's one thing. If we're going to, we really need to get it right this time so that we can reopen and grow the momentum from there.
And of course, Joanne, communication is key to that. You did mention that this communication needs to be a little bit better between the executive and the tourism and hospitality sector. You have a voice on that tourism recovery steering group. Are they listening to that message this time round?
I believe they are, and the Minister has been hugely supportive. And I know that we've had some difficulties with financial support in the length of time that it's getting out to businesses. And that's something that NITA has really focused on in the last 12 months. But I think you only need to see the publication of the Economic Recovery Action Plan this week, where myself and Angela McGowan from the CBI were with the Minister in launching that. And tourism is a significant part of that. So the executive have recognised that tourism and hospitality is a key economic driver for a regional economic recovery. And I'm sure people that are watching today will have been working in tourism for years and know that we've struggled to get a strategy, and economic strategies were always just a line. And now to have a commitment to a number of actions to help tourism grow is a huge step forward, and something that we have constantly been engaging on government with. But in addition, there will be, and there is a phase 2 of the Tourism Recovery Action Plan, and we discussed that at the steering group this week. And that looks at all the different sectors and what we need. So everything from, the business event sector hasn't been open for 12 months. How do we reopen? How do we support that? All the way through to, the different accommodation providers, experience providers, attractions. So we have seen, a lot of support, but it's only, if we've got another month, 6 weeks, 8 weeks before we reopen, we are going to require additional funding. And I think finally that certainly our Minister Dodds and the executive understand how important the tourism industry is to generation of jobs, investment across the region. This is as I say, was exceeded £1 billion in 2019, supported over 78,000 jobs, and that's a lot of young people and across the region. So bringing investment into communities across the region, and that's why I think the strategy that we're now talking about for the future is about sustainability and regenerative. I knew I was going to get that wrong. About regeneration.
That's it.
Strategy, because it really helped. We're working with communities. Communities are such an important part of delivering that tourism, and we need to ensure that tourism is delivering for those communities as well.
Dr. Joanne Stewart, thank you very much for giving us that update on your view about what is going to happen in the future. I'm sure many of you listening at the minute may have questions for Joanne. Please do get them in, and I will see if I can put them to her at towards the end of this seminar. Now, I want to introduce our next speaker, and that is Naomi Waite. Welcome, Naomi. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Naomi is the Director of Marketing at Tourism Northern Ireland. With record numbers of visitors and associated spend to Northern Ireland having been at an all-time high in 2019, as we were hearing from Joanne there, 2020 was an unprecedented challenge. With easing of restrictions in summer 2020, Naomi and her team, together with the councils and industry in Northern Ireland, led an innovative domestic market campaign which helped to bolster businesses during that period. Naomi will give a flavour of consumer sentiment arising from the domestic market research, and will also provide some food for thought as to preparing for your business for reopening. So Naomi, welcome this morning, and please, over to you.
Thank you very much, Nicola. First of all, thanks also to Brian and Sarah and the team for the invitation to join you today. As you mentioned, Nicola, the request was that we can give you some of our insights into the consumer sentiment and the across the island. This is something at Tourism Northern Ireland we have been monitoring, of course, very closely throughout COVID-19. So this should give you a flavour and help you in your planning and preparation for reopening. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So the one thing that we can't underestimate, of course, is consumer confidence. And Joanne mentioned it, and it is important that we get this absolutely right. And to do that, we need to reassure consumers. One of the great things is that consumer confidence is greatly starting to build again, particularly after Boris Johnson's announcements and the vaccination programme rolling out. So already, even in lockdown and during restrictions, 2/3 of Northern Ireland consumers already feel safe taking an overnight break in Northern Ireland. And similarly, that is growing at a remarkable pace right across the island. It is important, however, we continue to reassure consumers of the safety of taking a short break here. We know from even the international research that 3/4 of people will only book accommodation if they know what safety measures are in place. And certainly in terms of the accommodation providers we've been speaking to, they're reporting a lot more calls to inquire about what safety measures are taking place. But we're good to go, as the industry mark absolutely reassures consumers. We've seen that coming through in our research. Joanne mentioned the indoor attractions. They're certainly, again, what we're seeing in our research. The way to reassure people with that is absolutely, again, we're good to go, but signage reminding people of wearing face masks and the importance of that, and also very visible multiple locations for sanitizer, etc. as well. Next slide, please. Throughout the pandemic, people have started to focus more on their own health and well-being as well. So PwC, there you can see global consumers are more focused on their health and well-being as a result of COVID, but also, 2/3 on their physical health coming through in a report in PwC. I think the important thing for us in tourism is on our local research, 42% of people in Northern Ireland and 45% in the Republic of Ireland have continually reported feeling anxious and stressed, not just in the tourism industry, this is consumers overall. And I think perhaps we can all identify with those days where we have felt a bit anxious or worried. The important thing is, though, from a tourism perspective, we can provide the perfect antidote to that. So thinking how we can dial up our offer that will help people renew that sense of well-being on a short break, or improve their health, or indeed their diet, will absolutely meet that consumer need. Next slide. Another thing that consumers are thinking about differently since COVID is sustainability and the environment. Publicist and International report shows that 58% of consumers think they're thinking more about the environment. And we all saw the news coverage through the first lockdown about nature coming into cities in places that we would never have expected before. And that has caused a shift in mindset. So in July last summer, 72% of consumers across 20 countries said companies behaving sustainably was more important to them because of COVID-19. So again, Joanne mentioned regenerative tourism, and I think this will be an increasingly important dynamic that we will see coming through. Importantly, also, as part of that, how brands and companies treat consumers is being seen as incredibly important too. And consumers are demanding more of that in these uncertain times. So that reassurance through transparency of pricing and good customer service are even more of a focus. But also brands with a purpose as well. So sustainability, I think, will be something that will be continued to drive forward. Again, international research shows that roughly 2/3 of consumers want their travel and the money they're spending when they travel to go back to support local communities. So again, that connection with those communities that Joanne mentioned will be key going forward. Next slide, please. I suppose all of our worlds have contracted a little over recent months, and cooking, DIY, and gardening have become part of the everyday routine. And I suppose all that time spent at home globally has shifted people's travel priorities. And people are actually having renewed desire to enjoy perhaps the simpler things in life, a pared back way of travel, but also a desire for going to lesser known destinations, more outdoor experiences, walking, cycling, and spending time with family. And we're seeing that come through in our domestic research as well. So for Northern Ireland consumers, the key motivation for domestic break is to escape and unwind for 49% of those people. And again, people want to bond with their family, go somewhere the kids will enjoy, and recreate those childhood holidays. And I think any of us with children can absolutely identify with that trend we're seeing come through. So I suppose for our industry, it's about thinking how we can tap into those motivations and position our offer accordingly. Next slide, please. One of the trends that we're also seeing coming through is a desire for a feeling of safety and privacy. And that has translated to an increased demand, greater than we would previously have seen before COVID, for things like camping and eco-pods and glamping, etc. That is coming through in international research, but I suppose it's still important to recognise the important part that hotels also play, with 71% of ROI consumers preferring to stay in hotels. But increasingly, as I say, we have seen a desire for self-catering and camping, eco-pods, and just a shift in what people are looking for during COVID. Next slide, please. Again, people are also looking to get back to nature and get outdoors. 29% of global consumers are seeking immersion in nature, and 40% are seeking unique, authentic, immersive experiences generally. Our own research shows that beaches and forest trails, importantly, are the lead preferences by far for Northern Ireland consumers. I know, for example, Gosford has seen greater numbers than previously prior to COVID. Next slide, please. I suppose, what does all this mean for the coming year? We have seen that the Northern Ireland and the domestic markets will remain key, as Joanne mentioned. And we're seeing, encouragingly, the amount of Google search trends building. So there is pent-up demand. People are searching for terms such as hotels, accommodation, short breaks, travel to Northern Ireland. So we can absolutely see that demand building. And therefore, when restrictions ease, it's important we're all ready to act quickly. From our own perspective, we've been working in the background, creating some new campaigns. Our campaign last summer, A Small Step to a Giant Adventure, was to support our experience brand, Northern Ireland Embrace a Giant Spirit. That was hugely successful, and as Joanne mentioned, we saw a huge uplift in visitors coming from the Republic of Ireland who had never been before. Our Review Pro, which looks at review sources from visitors from 175 different sources across the world, reported an uplift in reviews of over 50% from visitors from the Republic of Ireland market. And in particular, the important point to notice in that was actually they gave extremely positive reviews. So despite all the restrictions, etc., Northern Ireland continued to deliver a really excellent visitor experience. So it will be important to keep that up. We are working on preparations to deliver a whole suite of heavyweight campaigns ready for reopening, looking at all of our segments and right across Northern Ireland as well. In the meantime, we've continued to keep our social media and our PR content going. There is an open content call on our website, tourismni.com. And I would encourage any of you who have content that you feel you might like us to consider sharing to get in touch with us. And we'd be delighted to see that. As I mentioned before, when restrictions ease, it is important we're ready to act quickly. We saw last year, once things reopened, how quickly things moved. And I would encourage all of you who have applied for the Cooperative Marketing Fund and been successful in that, to in particular use that fund to its full advantage and get your assets, etc., ready to go. In doing so, it's important, I think, in our communications to dial up a certain number of things. As well as COVID-19 to contend with, there's also, of course, been EU exit in recent months. And our research would indicate it's important to reassure consumers in the Republic of Ireland about the ease of travel to Northern Ireland. But also we know from the previous Republic of Ireland Task Force research that we need to offer compelling reasons to visitors to come. So really think about how can we differentiate our own offering? How can we communicate that in a way that people who perhaps aren't familiar with the geography of Northern Ireland exceptionally well, communicate that ease of travel and how things fit together within an itinerary, really make it easy for consumers. I mentioned the importance of reassurance, and that we're good to go, Mark, will be continue to play an important part in that. Our consumer research mentioned that it was a critical part in reassuring consumers. So again, if you haven't already done so, I would encourage you strongly to apply for accreditation under the We're Good to Go mark. Value for money is also coming through as being incredibly important for consumers. So again, so whenever things are reopen and campaigns are about to run, and please keep an eye on tourismni.com. There will be a call out for offers there that we'll continue to run on our website, etc., and through our social and in our campaigns as well. So please have a think about how you can present value for money, not necessarily price discounts, but value for money in the truest sense to consumers. And please get in touch with those. Sarah and Brian and the team, I'm sure will also be in touch with you when the time is right. Ease of booking is also important, and I mentioned the importance of brand trust and integrity. And it's really important for consumers to understand that if they need to cancel or move their booking, that they can do so easily. So again, I would encourage you to think about how you can dial that messaging up in your communications. And for the always on content, so things like your social media, your PR, your websites, certainly what we're seeing on our channels is performing in terms of content. Beautiful imagery, outdoors, nature, again, tapping into those trends, thinking about things like healthy and wellness and well-being, but also those unique, authentic, immersive experiences are still playing a vital role and so aligned to our brand, Embrace a Giant Spirit. Our brand is our weapon in all this. We know from independent research that it has the potential to drive business. And together, if we're all aligned to that, it will undoubtedly help us create cut through and drive the business when the time is right. Again, if you're not familiar with it, I would encourage you to go onto our website, tourismni.com. There's loads of toolkits there that can give you assets and advice. There's access to our media library to use the photographs. So now is the time to prepare and get all of that right. And again, just think about how you can dial up that connection with the local community and the sustainability in your communications. And final slide, please. So throughout this process and all of the uncertainty, the consumer research and insight has been vital to us in planning what we do and our preparations. And we'll continue to be guided by the research and the data and those insights. And we will share those with you on tourismni.com. There's already a huge amount there. And again, if you have time, I'd encourage you to have a look and a read through all of that. The Republic of Ireland market will be critical to us. And we, as you know, launched a tourism recovery task force strategy in 2017. The growth from the Republic of Ireland market up to the end of 2019 was phenomenal as a result of that strategy and everyone getting behind and focusing on that market. But a lot has changed since then. And so we're undertaking a refresh of that research to generate new learnings and to refresh our plans. So work is ongoing on that, and as soon as it is available, we'll also be sharing that on our website, and we'll be holding a series of webinars, seminars, and toolkits, etc., to help you implement the findings of that. Last summer, we also completed a review of the Northern Ireland domestic market. And again, on our website, there's lots of information there on that market. And we'll continue to roll out industry engagement in that and provide opportunities to share those learnings. But above all, this year, it's about being agile, being able to respond to those shifts and trends. And so we'll continue to mine all of the data and research and insight and share that with you. So to sum up, there are green shoots appearing. We need to be ready. And for us, Embrace a Giant Spirit and that preparation by working together is what will get us through the next summer and really take advantage of the opportunities when they arise. Thank you.
Naomi, some fabulous positive signals coming from you there. And I must say that I do think the photographs that you used in your slides would attract me to some of those destinations you photographed there, particularly that lovely glamping pod. Now, we have had a question that's come in, and it's to do with reopening as well. Somebody is asking, do they not think that there needs to be joined up thinking whenever it comes to the reopening between Northern Ireland, the rest of the UK and Ireland?
I think from a Northern Ireland perspective, absolutely what Joanne mentioned previously was the need for clarity and for preparation. So from that perspective, from our side, what we're doing from a marketing perspective is to be ready to go. We work very closely with our counterparts in Tourism Ireland, Kieran is on, and also with Visit Britain as well. So from a marketing and communications perspective, absolutely we are taking best practice and insights from all of them.
And Naomi, another one, looking to 2021 and beyond, how would you suggest businesses adapt their proposition or offer to cater for visitors?
I think there's a number of important things businesses can do. As I said, the domestic market, the Republic of Ireland market, and hopefully followed soon by the GB market will be key. There's a lot of information on our website aligned to those markets, and I would suggest that industry who perhaps have been focused on other markets actually review those and take time to think about how they can adapt to their offer. Also looking at those trends coming through, so the increased need for health, well-being, and looking at the need for reassurance. I think it's important to be able to adapt to all of those, but recognise also the need for their agility. So thinking about how you can respond quickly to those changes and trends will be vital as well.
Naomi, thank you very much for giving us all that wonderful information this morning. And we focused quite a lot on the domestic market, so we'll maybe try and get some international flavour to mix it up now. And the next up for our speakers is Kieran Docherty, Stakeholder Liaison Manager with Tourism Ireland. Kieran represents the interests of Northern Ireland councils and businesses within Tourism Ireland. Tourism Ireland has responsibility for marketing the island of Ireland and overseas markets. Through international travel has been effectively closed for the last 12 months. Kieran is going to provide an insight into feedback from international travellers about what they are saying about the island of Ireland as a destination choice when travel resumes. Kieran will also outline Tourism Ireland's campaign plans upon reopening. So Kieran, let's try and see if we can get some kind of international flavour. Do you think that we have got enough here to attract those visitors who have been not travelling for quite a bit of time?
Yeah, absolutely, Nicola, and thanks for the invitation from the guys in Armagh, Banbridge, Craigavon as well. It's great to join you all here today. But yeah, Ireland is really, really well positioned in Northern Ireland. We have a fantastic product. You know, we've been performing brilliantly over the last number of years, and our tourism figures, you know, stand that out for us. We know from the research that we've undertaken that the product that we have is what people are looking for, and that pent up demand is really there. And we have the product that people want in abundance.
Kieran, how well positioned is the island of Ireland for recovery, would you say?
Oh, very well positioned. I mean, we've been doing a lot of activity to keep Ireland and Northern Ireland front of mind in the consumers out there. We've been doing activity across publicity with a lot of trade engagement, you know, keeping in touch and managing those relationships with the tour operators overseas, and also through our social media initiatives, trying to keep that product and imagery and great video that we have out there, and so that we're ready to go as soon as travel can commence.
Give us a flavour about what Tourism Ireland has been doing and how they're preparing for the reopening.
Well, I don't want to spoil my presentation too much.
Please deliver your presentation now, because we really want to know what's going on in Tourism Ireland.
So yeah, thanks. So I think that I'll just start off by running through what the current environment and echo a few of the points that Joanne and Naomi have already mentioned, but also looking at those positives and also the consumer sentiment. As I mentioned, we've done quite an extensive piece of research since April last year, just to see what the mood and the mindset of the consumer is out there, and then share with you all of the activities that we've been doing internationally and also the plan going forward. So we just move to the next slide, please. As we're saying, there's great reasons to be positive. You know, the vaccine rollout is such world class. You know, as Joanne was mentioning, you know, we've got 1/3 of the adult population of Northern Ireland vaccinated. The numbers of cases are dropping quite dramatically now, which is really, really positive. So that is great going forward. In terms of international travel, there's still a few elements of uncertainty there. You know, new variants are rising, hotel quarantine now being mandatory in a lot of cases, and also the concept of travel passports. So these are all areas from an international perspective that we're keeping a close eye on. So if you just move to the next slide, please. Last April, we undertook a major piece of research across, starting off with our top 4 markets, which are Great Britain, United States, France, and Germany, just to see what people's comfort levels were with traveling. So that took the form of surveys, but also focus groups, just to really drill into where people were in terms of their booking and comfort levels. We expanded that into our top 10 markets, so moving into Spain and Italy and the likes of the Nordics as well. So we've been running our COVID tracker, which you can get access to all of that information on our corporate website, tourismireland.com. And I know that Joanne also shares that with the members, which is really good and insightful. And a lot of that information and data that we're getting from that will inform our thinking and our plans as we move forward on that. So what we're seeing at the moment is that 2021 is still, the key booking period. I think that particularly from a GB perspective, there's a great pent-up demand there to begin travelling, as soon as possible. And with the announcements from the UK, with England and Scotland now coming forward, we see that there's definitely business to be won. Hopefully further afield than GB in Q1 as well. But as you can see, as we move into 2022, the numbers really jump in terms of people's confidence and being willing to travel. So we Tourism Ireland are very much planning for the second half of 2021 to be really starting to get that demand moving. So just move to the next slide, please. So in terms of generating and building on that demand, we've a lot of activity underway. We're working in broadcast opportunities. I'd mentioned that we're doing a large-scale social media campaign. We're doing a lot of trade and industry engagement. And what's going to be very, very important for us as we start to ramp up our marketing activities onto the next level is creating that comfort level and making people, feel reassured that they can start traveling here to the island of Ireland. And so when the travel and tourism industry was open for a spell there in August and September, we saw a good influx of English, Scottish, Welsh visitors starting to come into Northern Ireland. And we created a couple of vox pops just at Titanic Belfast and also at the Giant's Causeway. So I'm just going to play a little video here, and this will form part of the marketing that we will start to roll out in GB as soon as we can.
We came over from England on the ferry. We've had an amazing time. The Titanic Museum was
amazing.
It was brilliant. I had a great time.
We've come across from near Manchester on Saturday, and it's really beautiful, and we can do lots and lots of stuff outdoors. So at the moment particularly it feels really safe and really great for the kids.
An absolutely glorious scenery, absolutely glorious sights.
We flew here, which felt really, really safe. It was only an hour's flight, so that was fine, no problems at all, and we're really enjoying the Giant's Causeway, and it's just an amazing place. Taken far too many pictures.
Next slide, please. So I'll just talk a little bit about the plan and the activity that we have underway actually at the moment in 2021. Just move to the next slide, please. Trade and industry, the engagements that we do in this space are so important in terms of maintaining existing relations with tour operators, travel agents overseas, but also to build on new business. And the world in this space has really moved for everyone else into the virtual space. So while we would previously have been doing big scale events in person, the likes of World Travel Market and ITB in Berlin, they've all moved now virtually, and we've got a really strong presence on those. So even in this year, Q1 of 2021, we have 30 opportunities for industry to meet, with trade, over 6,500 trade. And those events are across Britain, Northern Europe, the Middle East, and we have a major Northern Ireland Expo coming up in North America as well at the end of March, where we'll have 35 Northern Ireland industry meeting with over 400 tour operators from US and Canada. I think it's really, really important, as I say, to maintain those relationships and get the new product and existing product out there and make sure that it is front of mind. And we're very, very strong in that space. Not only is it important to have our product there, but it's also getting that messaging across, as Naomi mentioned, around safety protocols, and the flexibility of booking, etc., because that's what we know that people want now as we move forward. Next slide, please. International publicity and broadcast is another area that is so important, and we have a very strong network across the globe working on this. So we've got a number of projects already, in the can, so to speak. We're working on an IMAX feature-length film on Ireland that'll be narrated by Liam Neeson, which will be released when the time is right. We've also been regenerating and rerunning content that we've previously produced, because it's a challenge at the moment, obviously, to have film crews moving around for obvious reasons. But we're rerunning content across the globe in the likes of Canada with BBC content. But I wanted to just share a little example of the type of broadcast opportunities that we've been involved in, and that's the Adrian Dunbar Coastal Ireland TV show that many of you may have seen that ran on Channel 5 over the last couple of weeks. And it was a 2-episode series there, and it was watched by 2 million people at each series. So we want to play that. I'll give you a little flavour.
Next time.
It's quite deep here, isn't it?
A steep, all right.
I'm on a hair-raising rope bridge, visiting a 400-year-old fishery that's built on a tiny rock. I visit the breathtaking gardens that have been voted one of the top 10 in the world.
We're surrounded by these eucalyptus. The only place I've seen eucalypts that big is in Australia. They're massive.
Also,
quite extraordinary, isn't it?
The otherworldly site of the Giant's Causeway, magnificent in both formation and legend.
This is where you can see the Giant's house.
Next slide, please. So yeah, publicity is so important to keep Ireland front of mind out there with all potential consumers. And over the last number of years, we've moved from the traditional media space, working with journalists, working with broadcast media, into the influencer space, that is very strong in the likes of Facebook, Instagram, etc., and all of these different emerging social media platforms, which are becoming increasingly difficult to keep up with. But these influencers are very, very strong. They have a really engaged audience and can provide fantastic reach for us in terms of getting our imagery out there of the wonderful things to see and do in Northern Ireland. So while it's been a challenge this year when people haven't been able to travel, we haven't been able to work with influencers, bring them in, put together great itineraries with our colleagues in Tourism Northern Ireland on the ground for them to experience here. We have tried to repurpose the content that has previously been done with influencers that have come in. So we've encouraged them to reshare, their visits to Ireland and really get that dreaming and aspirational visit going. We've also teamed up some influencers from overseas with on the island influencers, and so getting them to reshare each other's content, and that's performed really, really well for us. In terms of the reach and the engagement, we've over in Northern Ireland, some of those campaigns had almost 2 million in terms of eyeballs on it, with 148,000 engagements, in terms of likes and comments and reshares, which is just phenomenal. We do continue also with the more traditional media engagement. We've been doing a lot of live chats. We do unboxing events, so around Halloween and at Christmas, we would send out hampers, which included, food and crafts from Northern Ireland, and had, discussions and chats, which goes done really, really well. And that encourages, those media then to share that content with their audiences as well. Next slide, please. I mentioned that we've been doing a major social media campaign across the globe. So we're very strong in terms of our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube channels. And since April last year, we've really taken the opportunity to share all of the fantastic content that was being generated here on the island, in Northern Ireland, especially as well. So we had great chefs, at home cooking. People were doing, musicians were playing from home. So we took that opportunity to share it across all of that large audience that we have. We've broken it down into a number of different categories under food and drink, built heritage, Ireland on screen, tapping into the Game of Thrones phenomenon, etc., etc. Views and landscapes, looking at our built heritage, so the fantastic castles that we have, and also the contemporary buildings such as Titanic, and then music and dance and literature and theatre. These are all areas that really resonate with the consumers out there, and I would really encourage any of you, if you've got any really good imagery or video, please do get in touch with us, and we will do our best to try to get those seeded out there across those channels. Running that campaign, we've had very big numbers in terms of reach and engagement, which has been super. People have had more time to spend on social media, and we're also picking up some trends there, particularly around the likes of YouTube. People are spending more time watching videos. They're also using connected TV, which is basically watching YouTube now on television, on bigger screens. You're probably seeing that more yourself, particularly with younger people as well. We're also seeing a big uptake in terms of Pinterest, and it's performing really well for us, but that would make sense given that it's such an aspirational type platform where people are building bucket lists and putting their images in there and going, I really want to go there. So that's performing well for us, and it's going to help with that pent up demand. If you want to go to the next slide, please. Golf, I just want to touch briefly on golf because it is so important, and it's easy to lose sight of the fact that we actually had the Open in Portrush not that very long ago, and 2020 was always going to be a year for us to build on that. So we are keeping that golf message open and keeping that message out there that Northern Ireland has got a fantastic world-class golf product. We're at a number of events such as the PGA Show in Orlando, which of course has moved online now as well, and hopefully that will come back to an in-person event moving forward. And then you've just got great news such as the ASPS Handa just announced today that that'll be coming back to Galgorm at the end of August, which is fantastic for us as well. And hopefully we will see spectators there on the ground. But for Tourism Ireland, the opportunity has really been able to get out there onto the PV screens across the globe. So we move just to the next slide, please. St. Patrick's Day is going to be very different this year for obvious reasons. This is always seen for us as a key date in the calendar, where Ireland gets a lot of call out, and we use that to really push the island of Ireland as a tourism destination message. Whether it's this global greening that we do normally, there will still be a number of greenings taking place, but this year we're moving it virtual, so it's enjoying St. Patrick's Day from home and really get immersed in that. So we're going to do a couple of live events, one from a Dublin pub and also one from the Duke of York in Belfast. We'll also be creating Irish coffees at Hillsborough Castle. And we have a really strong hero video asset that we'll be pushing out in the lead up to St. Patrick's Day, and that is narrated by Liam Neeson. So we hope that that will perform really well and drive traffic to Ireland.com for us. You just move to the next slide. So the green button is the global idea and the campaign that we are going to roll out as soon as we can. We had hoped to create new assets for this in January, but again, with restrictions and the way that the current environment is, just didn't let us get ahead with that. So we do plan now in creating new content in April or May, which in a way is going to work out for us because the weather is obviously going to be nicer than it would have been in January. So we'll be able to make this place of ours look even better than it normally does. So the plan at the moment is to create that content and then push as soon as we can, hopefully over the summer, to try to stimulate that autumn demand across the globe. Just move to the next slide, please. So the plan very much going forward is all about restart, rebuild, and redesign. So we just want to get the restart aspect of our strategy underway as soon as possible. I'm talking a lot about the activities that we've got going on a global basis, and that green button campaign will be very strong for us. But the hope is, domestic tourism will start to move faster, and absolutely Great Britain should recover faster. And so we're going through a little bit of a scenario planning at the moment now that we've got the indicative dates for opening from England and Scotland and hopefully Wales. And then we'll see what the executive, announces in terms of our roadmap coming out of this so that we can see when our attractions can begin to open and our hotels will be available. So we'll be looking to push with a very strong campaign across radio, across digital, across social, and engaging with those influencers and journalists and publicity and bringing them into Northern Ireland as soon as we can. So just move to the next slide. I just wanted to share, in summary, a little video here that we plan to start pushing out globally as well, ahead of the Green Button campaign, just right across the globe, just to start to provide that little bit of reassurance to people and start to say that we're ready to welcome you back.
Let's get back to Ireland. Back to doing the things that matter, the important stuff. Back to laughing with old friends and making new ones. Back to losing track of time. And back to showing how it's done. Or maybe how it's not. So sit tight, because this time we're rolling out the green carpet. And when the time comes, 100,000 welcomes await.
Thank you.
Kieran, that was a superb video there at the end. It would certainly make me want to go to some of those destinations. Just some questions for you then, based on what you've said. I was wanting to know, do people in the south of Ireland think that all that Northern Ireland has to offer is the North Coast and the Titanic Quarter. There is this kind of complaint that normally comes in quite a bit, particularly to me, as somebody that works in the media, that the only place that visitors tend to go to is Belfast, and then they go up to the coast, and then they come back, and then they get in a plane and they go home. Particularly whenever we're catering to people here in ABC Council, who have got some fabulous establishments here. Does that come across, or do you think that that is just a fallacy?
Well, from an international tourist perspective, our aim is to get people traveling around as much as possible, and the international tourists will come and stay longer. So even by that very nature, Nicola, that they're going to go to Dublin, they're going to go to Belfast, but they're actually going to spend longer and get out and around. So there's real opportunities there. I think that the product that we have is absolutely brilliant, and it has been improving over the last number of years. And that's our job then, to really get that product message out there, to let people know that there is enough to see and do in the different regions, and giving them a compelling reason to go and visit. I think that Naomi is probably a better place to talk about, the Republic of Ireland visitor, given that, our remit is that international visitor, but it works hand in hand. I think that if the product is there, it's going to appeal to people from Northern Ireland, people from the Republic of Ireland, and also to the British and further afield markets.
So, but people here in ABC Council area want a slice of that, or cake. They want people to know what's going on here in this area. And I suppose whenever they see some of the promotional videos that go out, it does seem to tend a lot on the sea, on the coastal areas, maybe on Titanic Belfast. Do you think that we should be better at promoting what we've got outside of those areas and letting people have a bigger slice of that cake?
Yeah, well, I think that there's been great advances, in terms of the product on the ground, and, being part and understanding the Northern Ireland Embrace the Giant Spirit brand is very important for us, because that is the brand that we're pushing overseas for Northern Ireland. And so the Game of Thrones phenomenon, with that coming as well, what you got to remember is there's so much noise out there in the global marketplace. Having those hooks and the big hooks is really key for us, trying to sell the likes of Titanic, Game of Thrones, and the Causeway Coast. Those are the things that get us hooked in, and then we can start to talk about the other fantastic, authentic, smaller food and drink, etc. All of those cultural things. That's the way that we would promote them.
Because I noticed there, whenever you had the slides up about Twitter, the world has changed quite a bit. And believe you me, sometimes I'm flummoxed about some of the things that my children come in and show me on apps and mobiles and things like that there. It did seem to me on the slide that you had that we are very good at promoting the whole of Northern Ireland whenever it comes to Twitter. I mean, for instance, there you had Fermanagh, you had Tyrone, you had County Down, etc., etc. Do you think Twitter is an extremely important tool when it comes to the future?
Yeah, I think that Twitter is important, and it's very good for conversations, and getting people. I think from a visual perspective, Facebook and Instagram are absolutely stronger, but Twitter definitely plays a role for us, and we see good levels of engagement. So we have a community management service as well that does a lot of the engagement on there. So Twitter would be one of those places that I would absolutely say get involved. But if you've got a tourism product, I think that Facebook and Instagram are definitely the places to be there, just in terms of the imagery and getting that wow across, and you can absolutely have the engagement. But Twitter can also be a good place to build relationships, and get in touch with trade and with the other tourism bodies. So I wouldn't rule it out. But in terms of pushing your product, Facebook and Instagram would be the two that I would be suggesting at the moment.
And just
if you've got any longer type form content in terms of video, YouTube is definitely where it's at.
Okay. And just one very quick question. Tourism Ireland has a network of global representatives. What has been the feedback from your teams with regard to the markets that they represent and the ways in which the island of Ireland can bounce back when it comes to the reopening?
Yeah, I think that the teams, overseas, we've got that network across, from London, New York, Milan, Paris, and Sydney. All of the teams in the main have had to, work from home for the time, depending on different local jurisdictions. But they've kept very, very busy maintaining those relationships with the trade in market, with the airline colleagues, and also delivering the types of campaigns that I've been talking around, the Fill Your Heart with Ireland social campaign, looking for those broadcast opportunities, etc. So they would very much see us being well positioned. They start to get demand and get those people coming back to the Ireland as soon as possible.
Kieran Doherty, thank you very much for that presentation. Much appreciated. And I must say that I did watch the Adrian Dunbar documentary, and it was W-O-W. It was so good. If you haven't caught that, please do tune in and see if you can catch it. Now we've got our final speaker this morning, and it is Brian Johnson, Head of Tourism, Arts and Culture at ABC Council. Brian heads the department in ABC Council and looks after the interests of our local trade. I'm going to hand over now to Brian to provide just a taster of some of the work that the tourism unit in the council has been doing over preceding months, together with indicative plans for future activities. So Brian, please do tell us what you have been doing there at ABC Council.
Hello, Nicola, and thank you very much for that, and thank you for everyone for tuning in and for bearing with us. I know we've run a wee bit over time, so thank you for that. I would like to just start by thanking the panel, if you don't mind, in terms of Joanne and Naomi and Kieran, and just to reassure everybody online, the support from Tourism Ireland, from Tourism Northern Ireland and the Northern Ireland Tourism Alliance has been superb throughout this year. I think if a positive has come out of all of this, it's been how strong that network is. I think the two marketing agencies have been very proactive, coming looking for content from us. So if there's a message coming out of this today, it is keep feeding your content through the two teams and through ourselves, because as long as we provide the content, I have found Tourism Ireland, Tourism Northern Ireland very willing to share. I would like to mention just Joanne, the addition that they have been to the tourism landscape. A superb support, and again, we've found with all of the information coming from the trade at our level, it's pushing it through to Joanne, it's getting it to the table it needs to be at. So just to thank for the presentations today, but also for that ongoing support throughout the year. And again, Nicola, your question to Kieran, I feel as a destination we're very well placed for the way the market is going. I think we have a really strong rural product. I think Naomi maybe mentioned Gosford in her presentation, but there's really strong rural product aligned with smaller towns and the city of Armagh. I think the sentiment would be that those sort of destinations will bounce back first. So, there's a lot of confidence in the presentations you've heard, but also from our team. If I could just jump into our presentation now, if that's okay. It's just a brief presentation. So I think it's the next slide, please. So the theme of today has been looking forward and bringing positivity to what's been a very tough 11 months. But I would like to give a nod back to the last 11 months. But again, more important sentiment is sort of looking forward. The next slide, please. So in terms of looking back, since March 2020, you'll have hopefully all received the weekly e-zines from Joanne and our team, and those have been going out, and just with all of the regular updates, all of the feeds, making sure that you as the industry are completely up to date on a daily basis. On an ongoing basis, what's been really important is that day-to-day communication with you. We need to know where the blockages are, where the problems are. Now we can see the global issues that we're all dealing with, but that day-to-day sort of conversation has been really important in terms of responding to what you need in real time, not in a month's time, not in a week's time or whatever. So that's been really important. So I would ask that ongoing communication keeps going. It's been really important to us, and hopefully it's been helpful to you. Going forward, we're rolling out our industry e-zine for this year. And again, a lot of that's about building networks among our industry and links between you. I think February this month we're profiling Trevor from Mount Ida, who I think is maybe on the call today. I think the next edition is working with Joyce from Blackwell. Something Naomi said too, it's just about the innovation you have all shown. We're never beyond astounded with what's been coming forward. Really quirky, unique things come forward, really good. And I think as a trade, you have been amazing. You have invested heavily in your product and committed to the tourism industry that we so require. And so just to keep encouraging in that respect. So go to the next slide, please. So in terms of training opportunities, over the last 12 months, I think the council has run out 21 online workshops, which have focused on issues like videography, Google Analytics, and marketing your business. We've had a large number of participants in those over that period of time. And again, the feedback we've taken from that is shaping what we're doing now for this year. So again, this is an iterative process, and again, we're trying to be as reactionary to you, what you need as possible. Looking ahead between February and April this month, I think we have 8 online training workshops lined up. And again, looking at issues like videography, which is so important. I think Kieran referenced that a number of times. You know, this is how people are consuming content, and we need to be up and live with that. And we also have a 6-week social media course for beginners. And Sarah had asked me to point out that registration is live up until the 4th of March. So if you haven't already registered, I would encourage you to go and have a look at that. And if you have any queries on that, again, just pick up with our team. And that will focus on things like, as Kieran mentioned, Facebook and Instagram, and also on Twitter. So, you know, we know how complicated these can be, and we know how they need resource and how resource heavy they are. So it's just, I think that will give you some guidance as to which platforms to choose, and again, which you can actively resource and stay on top of. Next slide, please. So again, in terms of sales, and Kieran alluded to it, even though the online shows have fallen away, the offline, the in-person shows have fallen away, they're still continuing online. So Gillian and Matthew and our team have been representing the destination at a wide range of these sales platforms, and selling the destination for, as Kieran said, probably back end of 2021, second half and into 2022 to global operators. And we would encourage this, and it's vital that you engage with us on this, because really what the global network want are talk to people like you, as opposed to, you know, the tourism bodies necessarily. So we need to give the opportunity to put you in front of these people. And again, Joanne's point earlier, which she made about innovation, is so important. I can't emphasize that enough. So, and I know a lot of you have been working with our team around the experiences, which has been supported by Tourism Northern Ireland. So developing those experiences is going to be really important, and that innovation coming forward. Again, I'd reference the Meet the Supplier event, and that's something we're keen that people engage with. And those regular e-zines coming out. Again, that's about building relationships between you, the trade, within the borough, but then also if we need to link in with other providers across Northern Ireland, and building those linkages as strongly as possible. Next slide, please. So again, in terms of looking back, the reopening campaign in 2020, we've so relied on Tourism NI for that, and you know, they have been an excellent advocate for the industry as well. So that was rolled out from July until mid-October, and then obviously we're into further lockdowns and so forth. And the campaign was sort of aimed at driving traffic, driving footfall to businesses, and some of those initiatives that came forward, like the Eat Out to Help Out scheme and the Good to Go scheme, which again has been championed by the Tourist Board, but again part of the Visit Britain network, has been really important in terms of building consumer confidence. And again, you can see some of the outputs that have been secured from those campaigns. Thank you. And next slide, please. And again, I think we want to just run a short video to show how we profiled the area during 2020. And just before we do that, I just wanted to say that we're currently working with Tourism NI in terms of the new videos for this year and being ready, as Kieran has said to, and Naomi, just for this year, and being ready for the reopening of everything. So if it was okay, we'll just run the video, please. thank you for that. And again, I think just if you listen to Naomi's presentation around consumer sentiment and where the markets will go as we start to reopen, I think the video really talks to that. And again, we're very alive to how we position the borough. And so looking forward to spring and summer, we're already in conversation with Tourism NI and Tourism Ireland in terms of how we align and dovetail with their campaigns going forward. Again, at the minute, we're looking for as much new content as possible around videography, again, which is responding to what travellers need at the moment. And again, just to re-emphasise that point, you know, you've all invested in the businesses to get them COVID secure, and we all know that this isn't just going to go away overnight. But the scene will change. But I think we just need to keep reassuring visitors that, you know, places are as safe as they can be, which I know you're doing, and I know you've invested heavily in. I would ask that you keep engaged with our tourism team, and any issue at all, however small it feels, come through to us, and we, again, if we can't sort it, we'll certainly go to someone that we feel that can. And again, the other speakers on today have been a part of that network. And just to re-emphasize that, I'd also ask to keep an eye out for the weekly e-zine that comes through from Joanne in terms of the very most up-to-date information we have. And if anything changes, I think those come out every Thursday, but if anything changes in the meantime, you'll typically get an update on that too. And again, yes. So just finally, if we can move to the final slide, please. I think, yes, on to the next one, please. Thank you. Again, just some of the names, and I think you will know a lot of these names. Joanne has been, again, I've mentioned Joanne a number of times, has been pushing out the weekly e-zine, and I think a lot of you have been in contact with Joanne. Joanne has been superb in terms of, you know, staying alive to the issues that you're coming forward with, and you know, it's weekends, it's night times, and everything, just like you are. So Joanne has responded to that. Orla and Emma have been, again, our key contacts for content. Again, they have been transforming how we're operating digitally. Again, some of our metrics around online performance has been superb. And again, I don't want to be competitive, but we're up there with the best in Northern Ireland. So again, just if there's content, feed through to Orla and to Emma and Gillian. Again, from a sales point of view, Gillian, you know, there's always innovation, you know, with everything that Gillian's doing, and I know many of you are dealing with her and working on the experiences and so forth. So I just encourage you, if you have something sales wise, get in contact with Gillian. I'd like to mention Matthew too, who's began working with the marketing team, and Sarah, who has been just coordinating all of this, who's been, you know, superb advocate for the industry at a local level for me as well. So and finally, I'd just like to mention our events and facilities team. Again, like all the visitor attractions Joanne mentioned earlier, there's been so much disruption. A lot of our team have been redeployed across other parts of the council into what is the essential services, but the team that remain have kept you know, driving content online, which is really, really good traction. I think we've all been amazed with the traction we're getting with that. And similarly with the events team, you know, we did some events pre-Christmas that got amazing traction. So just to commend those teams to you. And, you know, again, the final point for me is just thank you for everything you've been doing and for engaging. I think we all know never more important than now is what we do, and the joy and the entertainment you bring, the memories you're going to create. People are craving this. I think it's been mentioned, Naomi mentioned even the very basics, like a haircut at the minute would be great, or going for a coffee. You know, it's just, you know, I think there's so much pent up sort of frustration and people wanting to get out again. So I know you're in that space, and I know you will respond to that. And we know the last year has been appalling, and I'd just like to reassure you from the council team, we are here with you, and anything we can do to help, please shout. So thank you, and thank you, Nicola, for everything, and comparing as well. Thank you.
Brian, you're very, very welcome, and I have to say that I am looking forward to getting a coffee anywhere. And as for the haircut, I took the dog clippers to my own hair, so I'm saving myself a few pounds. Whether that will continue for the rest of the year remains to be seen. Brian, we did get one question in that maybe you might want to answer. Somebody's wanting to know about the Game of Thrones experience. How is it going?
Well, again, Kieran alluded to it, and many on the call will know there's a very big investment planned for Banbridge. I think it will be the Game of Thrones experience in Ireland and probably internationally. It's a Game of Thrones studio tour. they are working diligently in the background to get it open sort of midsummer this year. And I think we all know it's a very difficult operating time, but the project is running full steam ahead. And if anyone travels out the Castle of Welland Road out of Banbridge, you will see all the work that's going on. So it's really exciting, and it's going to be a big ticket item for us and something we can all hook on to. I mean, from a Banbridge point of view, initially it'll be really important, but I think for the wider borough, and I think the team at Game of Thrones have been very supportive and very keen to work with us. And again, we're happy to be that conduit with the trade. I mean, they have been very busy in terms of making the project happen, but when people get to see it, it is phenomenal. Just really world-class attraction. I think it's up there with Titanic Belfast and with Giant's Causeway. So please keep an eye out for that, and there'll be more press coming in due course, and tickets will hopefully go live fairly soon. So all very positive, Nicola, with that.
Very exciting and something to look forward to, and I'm sure everybody who's watching this morning will be delighted to hear that, Brian. So that's it. We've come to the end of the Look to the Future seminar. I want to thank all of our panellists this morning and this afternoon. So I want to thank Dr. Joanne Stewart. I want to thank Naomi Waite, Kieran Docherty, and of course, Brian Johnson there. And I do want to thank you for tuning into this virtual broadcast. And I do hope that you've gleaned some tips and information that you can take with you and utilise as we hopefully ease out of lockdown and towards an even brighter, rejuvenated, enthusiastic and innovative tourism and hospitality sector. Just a reminder that the seminar will be available and shared with all attendees, and anyone who did ask a question that wasn't answered, never fear, ABC Tourism staff are currently beavering away to ensure you get a response ASAP. I do believe you, all of you within the industry watching right now, will be a phoenix rising from the ashes, taking flight again and welcoming those who are taking flights to Northern Ireland, back to the Orchard County and the lovely County Down, and the unique and exciting hospitality and tourism sector that visitors will talk about for years to come. Thank you for joining us this morning, and goodbye.